Welcome to Two Therapists Talking. The hope for this podcast is to talk about important issues related to couples and individuals who are struggling in their lives with many different issues. I'm David Thompson, a marriage and family therapist.
And I'm Sherie Christensen, marriage and family therapist. Please join us as we explore these issues together, and we hope you will learn and be enlightened along the way. Come find us at twotherapisttalking.com. If you like what you're hearing, please get on and rate us and subscribe to the podcast.
Hi, and welcome back to Two Therapists Talking. I'm David.
And I'm Sherie.
We hope you have been enjoying the recent episodes on couples and building relationships. Today we're going to go in a little bit different direction. Think more anxiety management or mindfulness or letting go.
Hey, that's what it's called, the technique.
The letting go technique. And this actually comes from a book called Letting Go by David Hawkins, which is fantastic. One of those read it a couple of times books for me because it's deep and meaningful.
Yeah.
And he actually does not have this handout in the book. It would have been amazing because it's...
Yeah, we're going to walk you through step by step.
So this is valuable stuff, is what I'm saying. Like, you won't even get this.
And also then maybe go check out the book as well.
Yeah, you will not be disappointed. It's really, really good. But the technique is to help you to work through things that are distressing or troubling or triggering or creating a lot of anxiety for you. But they work for things like temptations. They work for anger. They work for really anything that you could say is emotionally arousing. So think along the lines of, we've done some episodes before about anxiety management.
Right.
We even have a meditation episode.
Yes.
So it's kind of like that.
Mindfulness.
So we just want to walk you through how you would do this or practice this on your own, step by step.
Perfect. So obviously, of course, just like a mindfulness or meditative type of technique, when you do these types of things, you want to be in a comfortable place. And as you're practicing this, we're going to say even set a timer.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe you need more. But this will kind of let you see if you can kind of walk through the steps within a specified time frame. So I feel like sometimes people, this is a 10-step process. I think sometimes people could feel like, oh my gosh, it's going to take me like 3 hours to do. Yeah. And so I'm definitely not going to do that. Well, if we can just set 10 minutes, just work on this for 10 minutes. I think it gives us more mental capacity to say, oh, you know what? I could do that.
Yeah.
So if you set a timer and you get yourself in a comfortable space, then you're just going to go ahead and think about these steps as you're breathing deeply, purposefully, right? That deep breathing is such a helpful part of anything that we're doing, any mindfulness, anything.
Yeah.
We're going to come back to your core foundational truths, that you're a child of God, that you're loved unconditionally, that your story ends well, and that all of your pain and suffering will have purpose and will ultimately increase your sense of love and peace. So like David's like taking a deep breath right as we start doing that.
It's Sherry's voice. Are you noticing? It's like she's already getting us into the meditative.
You kind of, I'm not even doing it on purpose, but it just feels that way when you start talking about these things. Your register kind of drops a little bit, right? Like, I mean, right in and of itself, right there. Like, we haven't even started talking about the steps yet, but you can see, just like David's saying, it's calming just to think about breathing deeply, breathing purposefully, going back to those core foundational truths as often as you need. Just those things right there are very relaxing, calming, grounding things.
Yeah. And kind of what I talk a lot about, your first line of defense anyway, and we've talked about this a lot, breathing. Taking a deep breath and just slowing everything down intentionally.
Right.
And you can do that for a minute or two. And if you bring your affirmations in
Yes.
as you're breathing
Yeah.
and focusing on your breath and what it feels like in the air, in your nose, in your mouth, in your throat, in your chest, you feel your chest expand, you feel those muscles moving, just paying attention to the physiological sensations of your breathing. And that alone starts to stimulate the vagus nerve. So
Right.
remember, we want parasympathetic nervous system activation, not sympathetic, not fight or flight, which hopefully that's your cue to do this.
Yes. When you notice the sympathetic kicking in.
Yep. Oh no, I'm feeling things are getting ramped up. Slow down, start breathing, and affirmations can be great. But really, this is designed to go to your affirmations as you're working these steps as needed.
Yes. And remembering too, as we're just kind of giving this little plug for that deep breathing and all of that and how it stimulates your vagus nerve, it also, as you breathe deeply, it slows your heart rate.
Yep.
Right. So especially if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling distress or stressed about various situations, typically that's going to accelerate your heart rate quite a bit. And so just the deep breathing itself, it's required. Your heart rate has to slow with that deep breathing.
Yep.
So as we start looking at the steps, the actual steps of this letting go process.
And it might be helpful to think of maybe like, if it's 10 minutes, it's about a step a minute. And that can be a helpful way because you're going to be pondering and reflecting and, well, how long? Well, there's not a set time, but think of like kind of a step a minute. And actually the 10th step isn't a step you have to do. So it's really, you might have a minute, just a little more if you split them up evenly, but it's totally fine if one step has more time. Honestly, it's totally fine if you do one step and it's feeling good and you spend 4 or 5 minutes on that and then you're done
And that's
practicing.
it.
Totally
Yes.
fine.
Yes. And maybe that first minute is you're just connecting with your breath,
Yep.
or something.
Yeah.
So again, I love that, we're doing this 10-step process, but it's something where you can pick and choose what works. You can even just breathe. There's so many ways to do this, to do mindfulness, to do various meditative breathing techniques that are going to help. This is just one of those.
Yep.
So our first step that we're going to talk about is identification. So recognizing what it is that you need to or want to let go of. So that can be an emotion. It can be a thought pattern. I'm stupid, or this, whatever. A past event that happened that was distressing, or even possibly a desired future outcome. So I really, really, really want this to happen, right? So as you identify what that is, you want to be very clear to identify what it is that's holding you back or what it is that is causing the discomfort.
Right. So this should be the cue to do the letting go technique is something is off, something's uncomfortable, something is causing you to worry or stress or get caught up. And that's going to be your target, basically. So that's what you're identifying in step one.
Yeah. I think it's so important to be able to look through. Is it an emotion? Is it a thought pattern? Is it an event in the past? Is it an event in the future that you want to go a certain way? Because all of those things could trigger these types of distressful feelings. And really kind of digging into what it is important.
Yeah. So step one, identification. Step two is acceptance. And again, you kind of get the idea. You're just breathing. You're just pondering and reflecting on each of these as you're sitting for 10 minutes. Step two, acceptance. Accept the presence of the emotion or the thought without judgment. And we talk about this a lot in therapy where you're just allowing the emotion to be. You're not judging it. You're not being critical. You're not being hard on yourself. You're just allowing it to be there. You're not in denial that this is what you feel. And
Right.
acceptance doesn't mean you agree or even want the emotion or the feeling. It's just an acknowledgement of its presence. In other words, it's here and you're aware of it and you're not afraid of it and you're not agreeing with it. You're just aware of it.
So, as we're talking about acceptance, we're accepting what you identified without judgment. And I think once you get into that, you may notice some emotion around that, right? Because we're talking about accepting the emotion or the thought. But if, for example, the thing that you need to let go of is a past event or a desired future outcome, right? Leaning into what the emotions that are being brought up for those things is gonna be important as you're accepting it. Because I think if we're talking about maybe a desired future outcome, like I really, really want this thing to happen. So we're going to accept what? Accept that maybe it might not happen, accept that it might, like that's an unknown space, right? That might lead you into some different emotions, or different thought patterns that you will want to address as well. So the idea is to get down to that basic core distressful space and be able to, which is often related to an emotion, right? And be able to just sit with that and accept that it's there and not judge it.
Yep. You're not denying it. You're not resisting it. You're not rejecting it. You are accepting it.
And so I think a lot of maybe some of the future ones, for example, would revolve around fear. And so just accepting, I feel fear.
Right. This is what I'm feeling.
It's not a good thing. That's not a bad thing. It's just an is thing, and it's okay to not push it away and just sit with it. So the third one then, once you've accepted it and just allowed it to be there, is to start to observe the feeling or the thought. So you just kind of want to sit with it and notice, how does that manifest in your body, in your mind? Do you feel that in your heart? Do you feel it in your gut? Do you feel it in your shoulder? Where does it show up? And what else can you notice about it? What is it? Is it a shape? Is it a texture? Does it feel like maybe like a butterfly, or does it feel like a knot or a hole? So when you do that and you start observing it and really identifying how it's showing up in your body or in your mind, it helps you to detach it from you. It's no longer you or part of you. It can be a separate thing that is there.
Right. And that's what we're looking for, is some detachment. This is the metacognition maybe we've talked about before, sort of being aware of yourself. You're the observer, and these emotions, they come and go, but you are apart from these. And so that observation is an important step. And that leads to step 4, which is understanding. And as best you can, you want to try to understand why this particular emotion or thought has such a hold on you. Likely it's a recurring emotion or thought.
Right.
What is its root cause? So understanding this will also diminish its power over you. And with the acceptance piece, hopefully you feel okay to explore that a little bit. Right. So you're not in judgment, you're not in criticism, you're not in shame, you're not condemning. You're just understanding why this particular emotion, why this thought is so strong, so powerful, so maybe pervasive or consistent in showing up in your life. What is its root cause?
Yeah. So we want to take a pause there. And we're going to come back to this in our next episode and talk about the other 5 through 10 steps in this letting go technique. So the great thing is, like we talked about before, you can even just use a couple of these and it can help sufficient to be able to let go. But we will finish up next time and talk about the remaining steps in doing the full letting go technique.
Yep.
From David Hawkins next time. So, hope you join us then.
See you then.
Thank you for listening to Two Therapists Talking. We look forward to sharing more conversations with you. Connect with us at twotherapisttalking.com or email podcast@twotherapisttalking.com. If you like what you're hearing, please get on and rate us and subscribe to the podcast.